the Native American mysterious Moonite people of ancient Cherokee tradition. The Moonite people were said to have a pale complexion, impaired vision, and a distinct appearance that Native Americans, different from Native Americans. Of course, they were pale. These mysterious individuals are said to have built some of North America's earliest buildings, according to their legends. Along with the Choctaw, Chippewa, and Seminoles, the Cherokee were one of the ancient Native American tribes that comprised the 5 civilized tribes. One is that the Cherokee, an Iroquois-speaking people, arrived in southern Appalachia relatively late, possibly in late prehistoric times from the northern areas, which are the traditional territory of the later Haudenosaunee Confederation, the 5 nations, and other Iroquois-speaking people. Now, you'll notice from the map that they're around the Great Lakes area between Canada and the United States, upstate New York and the Northeast, around Lake Ontario, and from east to west we have the Mohawk, the Oneida, Onondaga, Cayuga, Seneca, around the Finger Lakes region of upstate New York, around Ithaca. And let's also remember that around the Great Lakes region of Canada and the United States is where the Native Americans have found to have the ancient Minoan DNA of the ancient Cretans of ancient Greece. They've got the DNA of ancient Greeks. And let's also remember that one of the professors in the around 1850 from one of the first universities of the East Coast wrote letters to the Indian chiefs of the Canada and the United States, and he wrote them in their native language and alphabet, which all the chiefs knew, and he wrote the letter in Greek, telling them, "My brothers, please take care of your culture," etc. And he says, "I'm writing to you in your native language, in your alphabet, because I know you'll understand." So the map shows us around Lake Ontario, Lake Erie, the Iroquois or the Haudenosaunee are an Iroquoian indigenous confederacy in North America, and they were, during the colonial times, years of the French, as the Iroquois League, the Iroquois Confederacy. The English called them the 5 Nations, comprising of the Mohawk and Onondaga, Oneida, Cayuga, and Seneca, listed geographically from east to west. In the 19th century, researchers documented interviews with elders who described an oral history of the Cherokee people's journey to south of the Great Lakes region in antiquity. Scholars debate the second idea, which contends that the Cherokee had been in the southeast for thousands of years. This notion, however, is supported by little to no archaeological data. The Contestee people, who thought to be the Cherokee forebears, lived in western North Carolina from 200 to 600 AD. The Cherokee people were one of the 5 civilized tribes, and they were given that name by Europeans who believed that when they arrived, these 5 cultures had a higher level of civilization than the rest of the Native Americans. According to academics, this helped them to swiftly adapt to white norms, which did not help them to avoid being taken off their lands, and relocated to Oklahoma in what became known as the Trail of Tears, beginning in 1838. But the Cherokee were presumably seen differently than the other Native American nations due to the mysterious traditions of a mysterious people who lived before the vast Cherokee Empire. The Moonite people's legend. The so-called Moonite people were enigmatic Northern American dwellers who were said to have resided in Appalachia until they were banished by the Cherokee. New Views of the Origin of the Tribes and Nations of America, written in 1797 by Benjamin Smith Barton, an American botanist, naturalist, and physician, explains that they were called Moonite people because they saw very poorly throughout the day and had a number of different features from the rest of the Native Americans. Quote, "The Cherokee," tells us, that when they first came in the country which they inhabited, they discovered it possessed a certain moon-eyed people who could not see in the daytime, end quote. Barton wrote, citing Colonel Leonard Marbury as a source. They banished these wretches. In later additions to the moon-eyed people, story suggests that they had a white complexion, built the area's pre-Columbian structures, and fled west after the Cherokee expelled them. Another book published in 1902 by ethnographer James Mooney mentions a dim but enduring story, quote-unquote, of a mysterious ancient tribe who predated the Cherokee in southern Appalachia. According to historical stories, the white-skinned inhabitants of Appalachia erected several old structures in the area, including one of the greatest ancient towns in North America, Cahokia. Surprisingly, researchers currently know relatively little about Cahokia. The original name of the city is unclear because the ancient builders left no written documents behind. According to some ideas, the so-called moon-eyed people were the same individuals Lionel Wafer saw among the Kuna people of Panama, who were also referred to as, quote, moon-eyed, and, quote, because of their capacity to see better at night than during the day. The moon-eyed people are thought to have built the Fort Mountain State Park. According to some scholars, this Cherokee tale was influenced by current European-American traditions about Welsh Indians. These ancient remains were ascribed to Welsh pre-Columbian travels according to these traditions. And according to a 16th century document published by Welsh antiquarian Humphrey Llwyd in 1171, a Welsh prince named Madoc, this is 1171, a Welsh prince named Madoc sailed from Wales across the Atlantic to what is now Mobile Bay, Alabama. According to John Sevier, an American soldier, frontiersman and politician who was one of the founding fathers of Tennessee, on one occasion in 1783, Cherokee chief Oconostota stated how nearby mounds had been created by white people, whom the Cherokee subsequently evicted from the territories. And according to Sever's tales, the Cherokee chief acknowledged that these mysterious people were in fact Welsh from over the sea. This notion, if correct, would have far-reaching consequences. Or were the moon-eyed people Stone Age North Americans? Curiously, the legend of the moon-eyed people existed among the Cherokee of Ohio as well. Here, some native elders, Ohio is of course under Lake Erie, Lake Ontario. Here, some native elders and historians propose that the moon-eyed people could be linked to the mound builders of the Adena culture dating to as early as 500 BC. Much remains a mystery concerning these mound builders of ancient America. Could they have been prehistoric Stone Age white people that crossed ice bridges and settled in this land? Excavating the mounds of this culture, curious finds were made. For example, the Creel Mound of West Virginia yielded remains of a very large skeleton of a once most powerful man measuring about 6 feet 8 3/4 inches from head to toe. From 6 foot to 8 3/4 inches. Could the moon-eyed people be connected to the legends of prehistoric red-haired and rare-bearded giants that left unmistakable traces across southeastern North America? The mystery of the moon-eyed people is substantiated in so many ways, and yet we still don't fully understand who they were and where they came from. This is originally published by Ancient Mysteries by N. Hale, and it's on Collective Spark. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support, and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.